Good day, everyone. I am Jaey Trecia for Ellorimo. My assigned topic to be discussed is all about procedures of computer programming using C++. It doesn't literally mean about the procedure of C++ functions, but it is also a way to run a code program that has also a syntax which you're gonna learn with me in this discussion. So, before we begin the discussion, let me share to you our learning objectives. So here's our learning objectives. First is to define the concept of procedures in computer programming. Second, differentiate the function and procedure in computer programming. Then discuss the algorithm of a function and procedures using C++ computer programming. And lastly, understand the advantage of functions and procedures in C++ programming in daily life. Next is, what is computer programming? I believe we already know what is computer programming, but this only serves to freshen up our minds and knowledge about it. So computer programming or coding is the composition of sequences of instructions called programs that computers can follow to perform a task. It involves designing and implementing algorithms, step-by-step specifications of procedures by writing code in one or more programming languages. Next is the coding language paradigm. So programmers can choose from these coding language paradigms to best serve their needs for a specific project. So there are lots of coding language paradigm, but we focus on the C++ computer programming because it is an object-oriented that works through the creation, utilization, and manipulation to perform specific tasks. So specifically, it is into logical concepts. So what is procedures? Procedures and functions are types of subroutines. They are a sequence of instructions that perform a specific task or set of tasks. So subroutines are often used to simplify a program by breaking it into smaller, more manageable parts. So they can be used to, first, to avoid duplicating code and can be reused throughout the program. Second, improve the readability and maintainability of code. And lastly, perform calculations to retrieve data or to make decisions based on input. So basically, it tends to manage complex data and manage to create an authentic and reliable source code. Parameters are values that are passed into a subroutine. These are the set of facts or a fixed limit that establishes or limits how something can or must happen to be done. So, it can be used to customize the behavior of a subroutine. Second, be on different types. Have default values which are used if no values is passed in. Then, it can be passed by value or by reference. When a parameter is passed by value, a copy of the parameter is made and used within the subroutine. And when a parameter is passed by reference, the original parameter is used within the subroutine, and any changes made to the parameter will be reflected outside the subroutine. So note that each argument must have the same type as its corresponding parameter. So when we say call by value, it is only declares the type and the name of the parameter. For example, its identifier is to multiply, so times the quantity of 3 and I plus 2. The times is the identifier and the quantity of 3, I plus 2 is the parameters. Then when we say call by reference, it only represents adding and symbol next to the parameter type. So for example, the void exchange quantity of int and symbol with x and int and symbol with y. The void is known as the no return statement. Then the identifier is the exchange. Then the quantity of int x and int y are the parameters. So the source code tends to employ that int z plus x is equals to y, and y is equals to z. And this call by reference parameters is used when changes made to the parameter will be reflected outside of the subroutines. So lastly, subroutines can have multiple parameters. So remember that a procedure is a block of code that is called to perform a task, while a function is a block of code that is called to perform a task and will return one or more values. And here is the types of procedure. First is the definition. When we say the definition, this is where the code section is separated from the rest of the code and given a name. So defining a procedure does nothing until the code is called. So when we define hello world, it will print nice to meet you world. It means the C out of this program is nice to meet you world. Then next is the call. We run a procedure by calling it by its name. So when you say hello world, this will run the hello world procedure. Then you can call a function as many times as you like. While true, this will keep running the function infinitely. So here is an example. You want to draw a house with a gray rectangle at the coordinates for the walls and a red triangle at coordinates for the roof. Then you want your house near a hill. So the hill is with the green ellipse at the bottom of the screen. Then when planning a house, you have a main plan. And your main plan is to open the house drawing windows, or the house drawing shows an open the window and clear screen to white, draw the hill, draw the house, show the user, and wait 5 seconds. So this employs that packaging instructions and reusable artifacts is known as the procedures. Basically, if you're into planning, you need to follow procedures to successfully achieve your desired plan. So next is, this is the procedures that can call to perform a range of tasks. So note that when you do a planning, it is accompanied with a range of tasks to be followed in order to positively achieve a certain task. So consider it as a range of tasks. So in the task which is draw a house, this is the range of tasks. When we say fill with rectangle, it is the identifier. And the parameters are the color, such as the x, which is float, the y, which is float, and the width, which is float, and the height, which is float. Note that float is one of the data types of computer programming. So in that one, we have the fills a rectangle on the current window with a given color and position. Then the delay, which is the milliseconds. This is another task. Wait, since our main concept is to wait 5 seconds. Then open window, this is the title, string, width, and height, and that is their parameters. So next is the procedure name. So procedure name is important because it serves as the identifier of the program. So all artifacts need to have a name in order for it to be recognized. Then the parameter, the number of parameters that are used to accept arguments, and those instructions in the center is the instructions that perform a task. Procedure name data is important because it is used a procedure call action to run the procedure. You call the procedure to get it to instruct the computer. So next is, this is the syntax of creating a procedure. First is procedure declaration. When we say void, it is a no return statement, and that is only on the procedure C++ function. Then next is the procedural name, which is the identifier, followed by the block of code, which is the statement. Next is here is a possible result of the task draw a house, including void, because void means no return or no returning of values. So those numbers shown are the assigned values of each parameter. So draw a house, fill a gray rectangle at coordinates for the wall. So values of rectangle of a color gray is 300, 300, 200, 200. Then fill a red triangle at coordinates for the roof, which is a triangle of color red. Then we have the 250, 300, and so on. Okay. So here is the exercise 1. So let's try to solve the following. So define a square of x when x is 4, then define the cube of x when x is 5. So following the syntax of procedure, let's try to solve this problem. So here is the source code of running the following task. We have the hashtag include iostream using namespace std. Hashtag define square. When we say square, it is the multiple of the value itself. So we have x times x, then hashtag define cube, it is the multiple of 3 times. It is the multiple of the value itself 3 times. So we have the x times x times x. Then followed by the int main void. When we say void, void is only on the procedure subroutine because it follows no return statement. Then the C out of square when square is 4 and C out of cube when the value is 5. So we have the result of 4 square is 16 and 5 cube is 125. So next exercise is define a square root of number 25. In this exercise, what do you think is the difference of both input source code? What do you think? Well, it only implies that a code will run with or without a return value statement. Instead, a procedure is a block of code that is called to perform a task, while a function is a block of code that is called to perform a task and will return one or more values. Now, here are the terms to remember. We have the subroutines, which is the sections of code to break a longer program into smaller pieces. Also, it is known as procedures. Then, a functions carry out small tasks on data by taking one or more parameters and returning a result. Then, the subroutines or procedures may also take parameters but do not return a result, this is called a void or known as the void. Then variables declared outside of all subroutines are known as the global variables. They're available to all subroutines and functions. So global variables are not memory efficient since they hold memory for the entire time a program is running. So they should therefore be kept to a minimum. So variables declared inside a subroutine or function are known as local variables. So they lose their value when the routine ends releasing memory. So passing variable between subroutine is known as parameter passing. So what do you think is the difference between a procedure and a function? So basically, the main difference of two subroutines are the procedure only intend to perform the task with a void or a no result statement, return type, while a function must return a values or a result. So if you have answers or queries, you can send me a message. So here is the reference of the source I got in this discussion. So thank you for listening and good evening.